We've all heard a lot lately about repressed memories. You know the story. Adults, prodded by therapists, who suddenly remember something traumatic that happened to them in childhood. The results can be devastating. But now there's a new trend, a backlash against psychiatrists who are accused of convincing their patients to believe things that never really happened. Russ Mitchell has been tracking a case in Minnesota. Russ?
Connie, the women you're about to meet were told they were suffering from the same bizarre ailment, multiple personality disorder, as a result of repressed memories from childhood. And they're not alone. Now they're smack in the middle of a growing controversy.
I can do anything. I can do anything I want to.
It's hard to forget Sybil.
Of course I'm Sybil. Who else would I be?
The true story of a woman who developed many personalities to cope with repeated child abuse.
How could she do that to me?
When the film came out in 1976, fewer than 200 cases had been documented. But today, as many as 20,000 people have been diagnosed with MPD. What's going on? Ask Elizabeth Carlson, a St. Paul, Minnesota mother of two. She says 4 years ago, her life was in crisis.
We were having a lot of marriage problems. Both of us had lost our jobs. We had lost our home, had to file bankruptcy. I was very suicidal. I was very vulnerable.
She checked into the psychiatric ward of a St. Paul hospital where she met Diane Humenansky, a psychiatrist Elizabeth says would change her life forever.
She told me that the other psychiatrist that I had seen had misdiagnosed me and that she had all the answers, and through her therapy it was the only way I was going to get better.
And you trusted her?
I trusted her.
And what did Dr. Humenansky say to you in that first session?
She had talked about how she was a pioneer in multiple personality disorder, and that she said I showed a lot of the symptoms of multiple personality disorder.
So when you heard this from this doctor, what's going through your head?
There's a part of me that was going, this is kind of weird, but at the same time, there's another part of me going, well, maybe this is the answer.
Leanne Grubel of suburban St. Paul was also looking for answers. She too was hospitalized at United for severe depression after the breakup of a relationship. Leanne wanted the help of a female psychiatrist. She found one.
She said, I have the answers to things that have bothered you. And she wrapped it all up in the diagnosis of multiple personality disorder.
Leanne and Elizabeth shared more than the same disorder. They shared the same psychiatrist, Diane Humenansky. How many personalities did Dr. Humenansky say you had?
Literally, I lost count, but I know it was like well over 30.
I don't even know at this point, 50, 60.
The childlike part of myself that would get down on the floor and play with my children was not the real me. That was an altered personality.
She gave them names, and if I couldn't come up with a name, she had one for it.
There was an old woman in me. I had a nun in me.
Rage was one.
Let me see if I understand this correctly. For every mood, a happy mood, a sad mood, she would assign you a personality for each mood?
At every degree of those moods.
But now, both women say they never had multiple personalities. They say the idea was planted by their doctor, Dr. Humenansky. This undercover video from CBS station WCCO-TV shows her during an office therapy session. The two women are suing her for malpractice and negligence.
She would delve into strange things, just bizarre things.
Like what?
Are you sure you weren't in a cult? Are you sure you weren't into satanic ritualistic abuse? And this came out of nowhere.
Why did you keep going?
I'd never dealt with the psychiatric community before, and this was somebody that was recommended to me by other professionals. Who else do you turn to?
In their lawsuits, Elizabeth and Leanne alleged Dr. Humenansky's treatment was coercive and included prescribing powerful mind-altering drugs, using hypnosis, telling them to watch television shows on MPD.
Women with terrifying tales of multiple personality disorder.
And ordering them to read certain books and watch certain movies.
Go and rent the movie Sybil. Have it copied so you can watch it continuously. Read books on satanic abuse. You know, because I'm sure there's some in your background you just have repressed it.
As time went on, the books and videotapes became more horrific, more graphic. I started having nightmares. I was told that anything that happened in my dream state was reality, was really a repressed memory.
Many doctors believe MPD arises out of severe childhood trauma that may be repressed. The mind creates alter personalities to cope with the abuse. In fact, Leanne and Elizabeth both say they were sexually abused as children, but they also say they never forgot it, never repressed it. They believe because they did not fit the typical MPD profile, Dr. Humenansky made them embellish and create new memories of abuse so they would fit her diagnosis. How does somebody convince someone that they have multiple personalities?
It's like a cult. You're led down this road to believe more and more and more people have perpetrated you. It starts out with sexual abuse, then it gets into multiple personality disorder.
Therapists can make suggestions to people and encourage them to remember things that did not happen at all.
Psychiatrist August Piper believes many of his colleagues are overdiagnosing MPD and questions the reliability of these retrieved memories. Can people be convinced by their therapist that they have MPD?
Yes, in my opinion, they can.
We hear from some people that actual MPD cases are rare. What do you say to that?
Well, I say that's an error and a misperception. There are many MPD cases, and it's actually a fairly common condition.
Psychiatrist and Temple University professor Richard Kluft says he has treated more than 100 MPD patients. His explanation for the explosion of multiple personalities cases: doctors now know what to look for.
Now we know abuse is very, very common, and consequently we look more carefully for both the gross and subtle signs of conditions that we know are often associated with abuse.
But Dr. Piper believes some use MPD as a catch-all diagnosis.
No matter what symptoms the person has, multiple personality disorder provides a ready explanation for them. The person is hearing voices, that's a different alter. The person is feeling depressed, that's another alter.
Leanne and Elizabeth say that's what happened to them. They claim in their lawsuit when they resisted Dr. Humenansky's MPD diagnosis, she would threaten,
This is how I'm diagnosing you, and if you don't like the diagnosis, I will diagnose you as something else extremely psychotic. You will end up in a state mental institution and you will lose your children.
Dr. Humenansky said that to you.
She said those words to me many times.
Dr. Humenansky still practices in St. Paul. We requested an interview. She declined, so we decided to pay her a visit.
Hello?
Hi, Dr. Humenansky. Hi, Russ Mitchell with CBS News. Can I talk to you for a moment, please?
You'll have to call her attorney.
And we did. He told us he was confident Dr. Humenansky had committed no negligence or malpractice. He would not let her talk to us. We checked and found Dr. Humenansky has never been disciplined in any of the 6 states where she's been licensed to practice. Life is getting better for both of you. Would you agree?
Yes.
I have to ask this. In some small way, is it possible that Dr. Humenansky's treatment helped somewhat?
Only in the fact that it enlightened me about this kind of therapy.
Elizabeth and Leanne say they exhausted their savings and their medical insurance paying for their therapy with Dr. Humenansky. Now, 2 years later, Leanne is trying to pull her life together. And Elizabeth is trying to make up the time she lost with her family. Her daughter Alicia was 15 when the therapy began.
My daughter was told that she not only had to be her own mother, she had to be my mother and my son's mother.
And now I'm just really angry about it, now that I look back, because I missed everything. I never went to prom, I never went to football games, I never did that kind of stuff.
We were the best of friends, not only mother and daughter, and that all changed.
I love you, and I really am sorry.
It's okay, Mom. I love you too, don't worry about it.
In August, Elizabeth formed the National Association Against Fraud in Psychotherapy, determined to save others from what she says happened to her.
It's a rape of the spirit, it's a rape of the mind, it's hurt children, it's hurt so many people. It's tearing apart the American family.
Russ, this isn't the only lawsuit of its kind, is it?
You're right, Connie. We've seen a number of lawsuits triggered by this phenomenon. Patients suing doctors and parents suing doctors. In fact, to hear some doctors tell it, repressed memories are about to become big business for lawyers.